It's your turn to light the fire. I lit it last time.
I'm tired, Nate. Can you please light it?
Man, I just come back from the Shadlands too.
Why isn't the fire being lit?
Well, Nate didn't want to light
No,
it.
he didn't want to light it. Why do you look like halfway between disheveled and relaxed?
I don't wear my armor all the time. This is just, I mean, no, this isn't weird. What's weird, you guys are always wearing the same thing. Every time I see you, same thing. You eat in it, you sleep in it.
What's the matter with you? What are you attacking us for?
Yeah,
What is this?
I've changed up recently. Did my favourite 3F gear.
You don't look Shrek anymore.
Hang on, 3 Fs.
Yeah.
What? What are the Fs?
Oh, it's gear that is appropriate for fighting, feasting, and frolicking.
Frolicking. Well, I know what you like, because I do lots of frolicking. I'm a beast at frolicking. I frolic all the time. Like whenever you're not seeing me, I'm probably frolicking. In fact, I frolic hard. So hard actually that women don't want to frolic with me.
You frolic solo?
So, sometimes.
Where have you been, Shad?
Oh, well, I was scouting the Shadlands alone. I mean, I didn't know where you guys were.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah. I didn't even sleep in that late. I mean, but no one was here.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So I was doing some scouting. Guys, I found a crypt.
Oh, yes.
What do you mean, yes?
Free stuff, Nate.
Yeah, but it's not zombies.
Yeah, you know the history of the Shadlands. Crazy stuff has happened here in the past.
Yeah.
If there's a crypt there, it's going to be chocked full of monsters. I'm zombies. There's going to be zombies.
Or vampires.
Yeah, and werewolves.
Oh my gosh.
Traps.
Skeletons.
Liches.
Goblins, maybe.
Liches going a bit hard.
Yeah, it's probably been there a while.
Why do you think goblins are going to be in there?
Because they like treasure.
Look, regardless, I'm hungry. And we need
No. Well,
because what we're wearing, that's not going to work.
You're wearing a top.
My thoughts exactly. Even my brigandine, right? The sleeves aren't armored, and so I had a look at our stocks. We got some chainmail, and I think that'll do the job. Claws, bites, and that should protect us from most.
I think we should test it first, just to be sure.
Yeah, because werewolves can bite pretty hard.
Oh.
Zombies and skeletons usually have weapons.
They might have weapons, you're right.
Yeah, traps.
Why don't we go test it, and you can light the fire and have dinner ready?
Yeah. Find out which weapons can get through the mail easiest.
Yeah.
Okay?
A roast to be beautiful.
We're what you call professionals.
Just want to hit it. Like look at this. It's yeah. We're probably going to be destroying this hallbearer. Or if not, severely damaging it because it costs money. But that's why this video is brought to you by our generous supporters on Subscribestar, Patreon, channel memberships on YouTube, and Player is another one, because it's only thanks to you guys we're able to keep making this content.
Now, we do have behind the scenes content, exclusive content on all of those platforms. If you sign up for one of them, you get all of it. You get past live streams, you get all of it. So you get to see sort of the stuff we get to behind the scenes.
Lots of behind the scenes stuff.
Just today, we did a video on our favorite swords behind the scenes.
Yeah, just dedicated content, as well as bloopers, little gag reels that we have to just cut out of the main videos. There is some awesome stuff.
Thank you to everyone supporting us. It means the world. It means we can keep making this content. Let's get back to destroying this.
So, as you've probably seen, we're going to be testing mail today. Now, something to mention is this is probably going to be one of the most thorough testing videos that we've ever done in terms of weapon variety. We have a whole bunch, and we're going to show you every single one. Now, before we talk about the weapons, though, we need to talk about the mail itself.
Because the mail, this one here is riveted mail, means exactly what it sounds like. Every single link is riveted together, whereas a lot of the stuff you find online is butted mail, meaning it's just butted end to end. This suffers from mail moth. It's nowhere near as good, so majority of the test we're going to do on the strong stuff, but then for reference I think we hit this at the end as well.
Yes, we're going to hit it at the end with what performs the best. Now, this is what we're using for today. Now let's head over to our weapons, because we want to show you the ones that we're going to be using. Now, usually what we'll do is we'll use a weapon each. We're not going to be doing that for today's video.
We have too many weapons.
Too many weapons. So we've actually chosen our weapons. Let's head over there now and we'll show you exactly what we're talking about.
Okay, so I want to test everything from a dagger, which, you know, the blade profile isn't that great, to a halberd. Axe might not work so much, that might not work so much, but the spike at the end, that should be good. To the Master Sword, even though the blade profile isn't that great. A Gladius, because Gladius. And my favorite of all the swords, an arming sword, because, well, it's an arming sword. It's nice and light, should work well. Then I want to move on to an old favorite from Shadowversity, a knife and fork. I think that'll work really well, especially how thin those blades are. To a proper Shadowversity favorite, the Bec de Corbin. We're going to try every little spike and blade on this. And then because Tyrant, I feel like is going to be doing some ranged weapon, I want to throw some kunai, just to see how this is going to work. Let's cross over to Tyrant to see what he's got.
So Nate has made his choice of weapons and I have made mine. Here I've got the Kriegsmesser. I'm going to be starting off with some slashes. Then I'm going to be moving on to something like an axe, a lot more blunt force trauma than anything else. Then I'm going to be moving over to a katana because all the weebs in the world want to see how a katana will perform against something like this. Then I'm going to be moving on to some half swording. Yes, this is going to do nothing, but you know, why not test it anyway? Then we're going to be moving on, just like Nate, to a sort of more of a modern kitchen knife and also a tine. Now the tine that me and Nate have is two different tines. His is a hand forged one, this is more of a production one. So we'll see if there's any difference in those sorts of things. Then the king of the battlefield itself, the spear. Now this one is a bit more of a hewing spear. It has a broader blade on it, but we'll see how it goes with its penetrative force. Then to finish off, I've got two more. I've got a beautiful House of the Dragon replica here. Now the reason we're using this one is because the tip on this thing is gnarly. It is very, very pointy, very, very sharp, and I think this is going to actually destroy the mail, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course we have the warbow itself, 120 pounds. We can probably get it to around 100, 110 pounds, but this is what I'm going to be finishing on. We'll see how these arrow tips go. We've got a couple of them. This one doesn't actually penetrate through. This is my selection. Let's get on to the testing. Alrighty, so we have done a little bit of testing so far, and the results have been a little interesting. We've picked 2 weapons each that we wanted to talk about a little bit in depth. Did you want to start us off?
Sure. So obviously, you know, we've gone through a series of weapons, but coming to daggers, I actually expected a bit more as we're going through the daggers. And it even got to the point of talking about the gladius. And I thought this would do better because historically this weapon was kind of used against opponents like that. The tip got into the armor. It was just the tip, it wasn't busting links, that's for sure. For a weapon that's designed specifically to do it, it didn't do as well as I thought it would.
Here I have got the axe. Now, this axe performed actually not too bad, which is something that we found in another video, especially this beak here. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is this beak isn't sharp. It's actually a really blunt beak, and it was able to get right in and bust links. The blade of it wasn't really able to, but because it's an axe, blunt force trauma, and this is mail, you're going to be breaking some ribs.
And that's why I brought up the things like the daggers and the knives, because even though they weren't penetrating the armor really properly, they were still doing copious amounts of damage underneath, even if the armor, for the most part, survived.
I wanted to talk about my katana because I wanted to do a little bit of a 2-for-1 type thing. I had 2 different swords. I had the katana and the Kriegsmesser. And I did some slashes, some chops, and I even did a couple of thrusts, especially with the katana, and they did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I feel like that wouldn't have even broken a rib. Might have hurt a bit, but that's about it.
Yeah, but the reason why I brought that up is because everybody's obviously expecting, how's the katana going to go? The katana's actually held up. It's taken some chips along the blade, little tiny ones.
Oh, every weapon so far has taken some chips.
Yeah, and it hasn't taken a set, so I consider that a bit of a win. The katana didn't self-destruct.
So with the halberd, now this is a little lighter and a little sort of smaller than a normal halberd, but as expected, a big thick wedge shape like that is not going to get through. The axe is going to be exactly like your axe, but the little hook at the end, the beak, that got through. So we got about that much penetrative damage, which is enough to really hurt and start tearing open the armor. I feel like that was working just like it was with the axe.
We've got a couple of weapons left. I think we've got another 2 or 3, something like that each.
We do, but before we talk about that, I kind of want to talk about the unsung heroes of this.
We've got both of these here because both of them, regardless of the shape, this one's a lot more pointy, yours is a bit thicker.
But straight through.
Straight through.
Straight through. So if somebody is wearing mail and you're an adventurer and you have to do an assassination, maybe pick a feast.
Yeah, I mean, it genuinely just went straight through the mail.
Yeah, no effort, not thinking about it. So as long as the tines is about as much damage as you're going to get. And it's very stealthy.
Yeah.
It's very stealthy.
It would be interesting if the takeaway from today's video is the best weapon against mail is a tine.
You just got to pick your tine to the bad
Let's
pun.
get on with
pun.
it.
Whew, I think we are up to the pièce de résistance.
Yes, we both
the
have,
weapons.
well, not our last weapons,
No.
but our last sort of big ones before we move on to the final stuff.
Yep.
Here I have a very, very sharp and pointy sword.
Yeah, now weapon technology in the medieval careful period eventually evolved to points like this to specifically get through armor. So it was designed to get through plate and get through the holes in chainmail. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually holds up.
And then what have you got there? You got something special.
I've got a bit of the fan favorite. So we've had the Bec de Corbin repaired, but it'll be interesting to see how this Swiss Army knife of a weapon is actually going to work. We know the hammer's not going to do anything, but the little lag spikes on the side, the main spike for thrusting, and of course, the beak, which given what happened with the axe and given what happened with the halberd, I have a feeling that beak
is just going to obliterate this whole thing.
It'll be good.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with this because I think all the fans will be waiting with anticipation for the results of this one.
I am waiting with anticipation to see the results of that. So hurry up and destroy and leave me some left.
So we've concluded all our testing with all our, you know, handheld sort of weapons. Now we're going to go for a little bit of range stuff. I have the war bow here. This is 120 pounds, and you have something clanging around there.
I do. So I've got a few kunai, because even though we know this really isn't going to do too much, I kind of want to see what rogue weapons would do against mail.
That's fine, that's fine. But we're going to be, you know what, actually, let's do yours first. Just because we'll end off with, hopefully, something that'll work.
Yeah, because I'd like to see that. We know this isn't going to, well, we think we know it's not going to penetrate, so let's give this a shot. Won't you
Alrighty,
die?
alrighty. That's enough. The results have been exactly as expected.
Yeah.
And it's time we move on to the war bow.
Yeah, now that I think is actually going to do something. So
I hope it does. I actually am not sure here. So
well, we'll have to see. We'll have to take really close note that it doesn't hit a previously marked area, but we'll watch and find out. Well, I think we're up to the buttered mail.
Here! What have they done to you? Look at your face! Look at it's murdered!
yeah, that was from the flamethrower.
Yeah, it's a previous video.
We're talking about mail.
I want to have a look at this. Look at
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But seeing as you're here, I feel like we should let you end out on the buttered mail, because we started the video talking about how bad this is compared to riveted, and we now have, as promised, the best of the best weapons. But
Here it is. Best of the best.
Well, this makes sense because I've got a full video talking about forks.
Tine.
What?
tine.
Tine?
It's got two prongs. It's a tine.
It's a medieval fork.
One prong, it's an awl. Two prongs, it's a tine. Three prongs, it's a fork or a trident.
Yeah.
Fork that.
Sorry, 3 prongs is a trident. 4 prongs is a. Blah, 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 blah. We know what we're saying.
It's a medieval poking thing.
It is.
But it has potential in combat. I got a whole video, and you know, barely anyone's watched it because I don't know, maybe. But there's more value to forks.
But I think. But how about we come back to that, because I want to see this get destroyed. For that, not yet. Plus, he's taken enough damage for the day. Shad, can you hold this?
Yeah.
He's taken enough damage for the day. Let's. You don't need to see any more there, buddy.
Let's
you don't need to see any more.
stab him in the back. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, okay, hang on. If you're going to be fighting monsters and you have the opportunity to stab in the back, that's always what you do.
But he's not a monster. He's one of us.
He's looking like a monster.
He's looking like a monster. He's looking like nightmare fuel.
He's already in the zombie territory.
Yeah, we can just put him at the front lines when we go down to the crypt, and it'll be fine. They'll run away from us. Anyway,
All right, Shad, which one do you want to start with?
we have the bec de Corbin, which
Okay.
of course the beak is the point.
Vector Corbin, I'll end off with that. I want to try with the sword because swords are interesting, and I think you probably have been finding the results that it very much depends on blade profile.
Yes, and it wasn't for lack of trying. We tried with the katana and the Kriegsmesser to get through this bad boy. Well, not this one, the other one. But this one here, it was uniquely, beautifully.
And we said right before we hit with it that this is designed specifically to get through armor, and
That's why that's why sword design evolved to have such acute tips like this. And funnily enough, when you put it to the test, you see why.
you know what? Enough talking.
Let's
How
do
about
it. Let's do
I'll
it.
let you go.
Blasted through it. Look at that. Oh. All right, try again. I'll try and maybe get on this end this time. No resistance. I am getting a lot of flex though, but you'd not be happy, I think. Oh, there's no hope of surviving that. That is fully in. All right, it's not the only spike to try out. Hang on. I'm gonna fork this guy. Ready? Wow! Wow!
That was kind of as expected for some of the weapons, but
unexpected for other weapons.
yeah, like you really did fork it. He talked about frolicking, and he definitely forked it up with that.
Now, I think you actually, just on the tine before we move on, you actually got deeper penetration than we did when we did this. So I think you just put more power into it, more than
Maybe
anything.
I did double hands.
Yeah.
Well, you got to double hand forks if you're going for assassination
When
attempts.
you're handling forks, 2 hands is usually better than 1.
And this isn't even sharp. I want to make sure that's the point. This is just, it's got a slight, not even an edge.
That went right up. That got deeper penetration than some of the swords even.
Yeah, like we expected good penetration out of this, but if you hold that for a second, Shad, some of the things like the Gladius, like that was kind of busting links.
Hang on, I didn't try the Gladius against the butted mail. I'll be back. Broader blade tip, butted mail. I busted a ring, depends on what level of penetration you consider that. Yeah, I'm this one. Well,
Results as expected?
yeah, it got through the butted mail. Did this have trouble with the...
No, well, I was gonna say like it was. I said busted links. I more meant like bending links, but that was about it. Like I honestly thought it would do better, and it didn't. Whereas
Something like this sword with this tip, which is gnarly. We've actually taken a little bit off the tip because we hit the core of Boromir.
Yeah.
But we were able to get like this deep.
yeah, so you get swords with profiles like that.
like this, that confirms something pretty significant because this is why these tips were developed, right?
But we have to mention,
Blasted through chain.
And it didn't go through that deep because that Boromir is thicker than that with armor. I feel like it went about that deep because we didn't see that the whole thing pop out, but we saw the tiniest tip come out the other side.
so this actually went all the way through. It went through the front, but then it didn't get through the back of the mail, but it did go through the front.
But hang on, it went through riveted mail plus
Gambesson.
thick padded Gambesson.
Through Boromir, through the Gambesson again.
and then
but
almost out the back.
Yeah.
Almost out the back. But
this thing is pretty gnarly. Now, before anybody asks what sword this is a discontinued sword that we got sent to review.
Then they asked us not to review it because it was discontinued, and you can obviously see it's based off of, I think it's
Blackfire
from House of the Dragon, and
though as Tyrant noted, it should have a little red gem there to actually be accurate.
it's got pros and cons. One of the big pros is its blade and its profile, and we were happy to put that on the, I guess, risking damage area.
Yeah.
They're now
Our beautiful baby.
But when we get to some of the other weapons, we got to things like beaks and hooks and whoo!
You didn't break it this time.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I tried not to. Plus, it's actually stronger
It's stronger
now.
than
It's
it
got a
was
thicker weld holding it together. But the first swing, I think I got it to about that deep, and I'm like, okay, let's put a little extra power into it. Straight to the base.
So-
every time.
It is shocking how effective riveted mail is against some weapons. Like some weapons it stopped it in the tracks.
Well, there is one more we should talk about that actually made it through, and that is our arrows. Well, this arrow particularly, here, do you want to hold that one? We've actually got some bit of where the wood has been chewed up by the actual mail.
Yeah, so bullet heads were getting through. So that's the actual metal part. The bullet heads were getting through. The broadheads, not so much. So if we had have had bodkin tips, which are really sharp, long tips,
They're then there are even things called needle point bodkins, which are specially made to get through mail and gambeson. Like
Now, so people can see, there is a giant difference between these arrows. This is basically twice as thick, and with that head. So this was able to get through consistently, which is the important part.
And to note, the size of the holes on this particular hallberg are about as big as that shaft is thick. So it was pushing the links off to the side, making a hole, or finding a hole, and going through pretty much every time.
Yeah, and we tried a few different arrows and none of them were getting through. So when we got this one through, we had to do it a couple times to make sure that it wasn't a fluke.
Hence
and every time...
Hence the fraying, like it was choking up every time.
this is interesting because like war arrows stereotypically have much thicker diameters, which would actually make them harder to get through certain types of mail because the rings aren't big enough and
they're also heavier, so they fly a little slower.
They should have more power behind them because they're heavier.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's a bit of a give and take there. It's just fascinating stuff all around in terms of, now, does need to be mentioned, the gambeson that was under the mail isn't the best like armor grade gambeson. You can get ones that are 30 layers that can stop arrows like this. The test's been done and a 30 layered gambeson has stopped arrowheads like this.
Yeah, but it sort of comes down, at least for adventurers, comes down to the quality. So if you're like Dungeon Master or Storyteller is saying to you, hey, we've got a gambeson for 100 gold and a gambeson for 5 gold, grab the one worth 100 because otherwise that's going to happen.
So I think this will hold up for our adventure into the crypt.
Well,
do you want to go, Nate?
Okay, hang on, a couple of things. Okay, so I don't think the undead are going to have refined blades like this, so check, that'll be safe. Do you think they're going to be like forks?
I'm always hungry.
I do want this.
Did you make our food?
No, I didn't. But if we're not facing forks, that's safe.
Well, actually, hang on. We need to really think about weapons. And would a fork, forgetting the armor, like we figured that out, would the fork be the best weapon to take into there? Like we've got a video.
We do have a video.
On entire forks, and we tested this again today, and you were right.
And I speculate certain uses of forks in battlefields and other things and how you could use them. You should probably check it out. It's right there. And in the meantime, grab the chainmail, Don, put it on.
We'll leave this here for you.
Wait.
What?
We ruined all our chainmail. Now we have nothing to wear.
Oh, well, you can put this one on if you want. I think it'll still work fine.
The flaw in our logic to test our chainmail, we destroyed it in the process. Now we have nothing to wear.
Well, there's a video down there.
Go watch the video. We'll figure out the armor.
We'll survive this fight, fellas.
Click it. Click it.